What?
Subscribe.
Subscribe. We'll highlight all that. Don't you worry.
Just
But of
saying,
course,
you gotta remind people. You want to get
Subscribe right now.
subscribe.
subscribe. Of course.
Philadelphia, baby, you're gonna love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
Hello and welcome into Get in the Hole. Ben Pirro, Ethan Hogan, and myself, Steve McAvoy, streaming live from the Underground, a part of Underground Sports Philadelphia's podcast network on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube. And of course, bringing you all the news, betting tips, and analysis from across the PGA Tour landscape. We got a lot to cover, including LIVGolf, a lot of news around the Mexico Open from this past week, and of course, the Cognizant coming up, and all of that would not be possible without shouting out our awesome sponsors, including 47 Brand, who just this week has officially dropped their TGL collection. That is right. You can get in on all of the apparel needs. You can rep the Bay, LA, New York, Boston. Hopefully Boston wins tonight against Atlanta. Praying to God for the parlay. You can get in on all the action and rep your favorite team. You can get anything from their signature hitch snapback hats to adjustable cleanup hats. Of course, T-shirts for every single team. Some awesome styles available at 47 Brand. You can check the link in our description and get your hands on some awesome 47 Brand merch with the TGL at 47brand.com. Ben, also it's the Milkwood Rope 47 hitch hats. Thank you, KB, for that. Their new golf line, the Milkwood Rope 47 hitch hats, are absolutely awesome. Some awesome landscapes from your favorite geographical region, from New York to Milwaukee and beyond. You can get in on all that with a link in our description. Ben, Ethan, welcome back in. Another great week as we break down some more news and analysis from the world of golf. And we lead with, I had bookmarked this story, I think it was like last Tuesday, like immediately after the show had ended. And I was like, this might be the start of something new for Tiger Woods and his brand Sunday Red, who have officially signed on their first brand ambassador, Carl Vilpus, from the great land down under in Australia, former Stanford graduate, just like Tiger. The accolades speak for itself. He is one of the all-time best players at Stanford University. He wasn't quite as good as some other guys of his past, including like the Rose Zangs and, of course, Tiger, Michael Torbjornsen, but he does have some of the most wins in Stanford history, one of the scoring averages in Stanford history. He came out as the 2024 Rookie of the Year on the Korn Ferry Tour last year and is now a full-time fighting member or a part-time member of the PGA Tour, looking to get his first win. Has played the last couple of weeks and has played quite well. But the new passing of the torch, metaphorically, for Tiger Woods, now getting his first brand ambassador, I made a joke to some friends. I'm like, does Tiger know something that we don't? Like, is Carl like the next like big guy in golf that we're just waiting for him to explode? Could very well be the case. I feel like Tiger would not want to sign somebody just out of nowhere. It would certainly take vetting. Ben, what do you think of the newest and first signing to Sunday Red?
I mean, I think it's as good of a signing as you could make, considering it's their first one as a company. Carl Villips has been good at golf at every single level he's played at. And good is an understatement. He's actually been fantastic from junior to college to amateur to now pro. He has achieved and won numerous accolades dating back to the time when he was literally just a kid.
Yeah.
And so, and if you follow golf and if you're kind of like a golf junkie, you've known about this kid for a long time. And so I think part of it does have, it makes sense. I mean, they both went to Stanford, Tiger and Carl. I'm not going to say this is the passing of a torch, because Tiger is he's one of one. He's the GOAT.
Yeah.
That being said, Tiger obviously feels that this kid is going to be a very big deal in pro golf, and he already is. And so Tiger, I think, made the very smart decision, and I'm sure that there are other people probably speaking with him regarding this, saying we should probably go after more of the the younger demographic of tour players, because those are really the guys who are going to be selling stuff for the next 5 to 10 years, because the prime now in golf has shifted to something that's much younger now.
Mhm.
Okay, so historically, a tour pro would get on tour at 28. Well, now it's like 27. Okay, so everything is kind of inched up. And so and he's already had a lot of success. I believe he won last year on the Corn Ferry Tour.
Mhm.
So this makes total sense. I mean, he's basically doing the opposite of what Liv did. He's going after someone who has a lot of upside, a lot of hype, and has achieved a lot in a very short amount of time. Whereas Liv, they were just going after older players who were clearly past their prime or on the back end of their prime initially. So I think that this is a great move for Tiger. I really do. And also, I think the fact that he was able to bring in Carl, this also makes Sunday Red much more appealing to the younger generation as well, because the stuff is not cheap to buy. That's been established. And so I think that could maybe convince some younger people in the game of golf to maybe purchase some of the Sunday Red gear. I like it, though. I really do. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about this, and I was back when I covered NIL back in 2022, I spoke to a girl. I'm totally drawing a blank on her name, but she was one of the top high school basketball recruits in the country. And I was covering a story about how she had signed with Jordan. And like at that point, high school athletes weren't getting signed. NIL was very new. College athletes weren't even really getting signed. And like if you look at the scope of people who have been signed with the Jordan brand, like obviously LeBron's got his own, but first wore Jordan very early on in his career until he ended up going to Nike full time. Melo was a Jordan athlete. Like there are very few and far between guys who are represented by the GOAT. And the reason why that I found out in this interview is that Jordan handpicks the people that he wants to represent his brand, almost as if like trying to like figure out the word to use. He uses them as the new mode to expand his personal brand. I'm hand selecting these guys as the greatest player ever because I think they are going to be the next greatest ever. And that's what I immediately thought with this, right? Carl Phillips, like you said, he won multiple junior championships by the age of 10. He won the Utah championship on the KFT this year. He finished runner-up the week prior. I think he finished top 20 for 7 or 8 straight weeks on the Corn Ferry Tour. Of course, won the Rookie of the Year. Was a stud in only made 2 starts on the PGA Tour Americas. I hit my wall. And immediately got off to an insane run very early on at 22, 23 years old, on top of the fact that he had a great college career. So at 23, here he is getting signed by the greatest player of all time, more probably to come. And I think the interesting thing, like you're saying, right, it's the opposite of what Liv did. I mean, Liv's doing it now. They're trying to get the young players who could be the future generation. I'm curious who is next, though, from Tiger's brand. This is only the start of something way bigger. And Tiger's at a point in his career, too, of course. We already have talked about it ad nauseum. He's getting older. He's stopping to play. He's really going to play majors if he even can at this point. That's really it. It almost makes sense to do exactly what Michael Jordan did and what other major athletes, probably LeBron will do it too by the time he retires, to sign on the next generation of golfers that he thinks is going to be legit. And the cool thing is that it's kind of an untapped market, right? And we're going to talk about it in a little bit. The Mexico Open this week, we watched some of the best next generation golfers. Aldrich Pockire, who I don't even know is signed to anybody off the top of my head, who is only 20 years old. Had he won this week over Brian Campbell, would have been the 3rd youngest player to ever win a tour event, only behind Nick Dunlap last year and Jordan Spieth back at the John Deere in 2013. So like to put that alone into perspective, like Akshay Bhatia, when he won, I think he's currently the 3rd youngest. He won at the Puerto Rico Open. Very similar kind of style event, a younger kind of player, fits the mold, but he had been a part of Callaway forever. We had guys in this event like Blades Brown, he's only 16, but has already been picked up by TaylorMade. We had 2 other amateurs who made the cut and finished top 20, one from Spain and Jacob Hastings from San Diego State, who's a grad student, who also I don't know off the top of my head is signed. But you see a event like this, and you see a ton of young names, talented names, even guys who are in their mid-20s, like Oliver Tosti and other names that haven't had all the success in the world. Because like you said, guys really started off around 27 years old. Tosti's 27. There are other names that fit in that area that we'll get to. Those guys may have signings, but if you're approached by the GOAT, it's like you kind of have to take it. Like, how would you not? If Michael Jordan approached you tomorrow and said, "I want you to wear Jordan Golf," would you wear it? It's one of those things where you're being approached by the guy. I think that's the really interesting thing about this, and I'm really hoping that Carl Phillips lives up to the hype now, because there is kind of this this shroud over him of he's Tiger's guy. He's the only person not named Tiger Woods at any given PGA Tour event wearing his gear. That comes with some pretty big shoes to fill. But it's fascinating to see where this goes. And the brand is already launched so well. They've been sold out of everything forever. Everyone wants a hand on it, whether it's a matter of just fashion and having Tiger stuff, or the fact that it's actually good apparel. I'm gonna assume that it's quality apparel. Just says a lot about what the signing is for the brand and what's to come. Quick transition over into what is happening tomorrow. Some big news in the golf world. Full Swing Season 3 is dropping officially. Saw a bit of a teaser from Foreplay today. They got the entirety of the Scottie Scheffler arrest on camera. And I am ecstatic to watch this. There's a clip that Chad Mumm put out. Apparently, it's just Tom Kim who that morning had texted Scottie, said, "Hey, I'll meet you for coffee." And he's just standing there in the clubhouse with 2 cups of coffee, just like standing around what's going on. Sees on the TV, Scottie's getting arrested. He goes, "Oh, shit." Like, here we go. So what are you looking forward to from the upcoming season of Full Swing? Anything to look out for? There's like 30 more names that have popped up. I'm hoping to God I don't have to hear Amanda Balionis talk about a cut one more time. That would be hell. But what are you guys looking forward to?
I mean, me personally, I just think the storylines in general. Look, I mean, I think it's a little bit of an insight into what pro golf is and what these guys go through. It doesn't tell you everything. It doesn't tell you as much as you think.
Yeah.
Okay? I will say that to any listeners out there who want to watch it. I think it's very good if maybe you don't know a lot about golf or how pro golf works. But it doesn't really give you the full scoop at all. Like, not even close. I just hope that we have more new faces rather than just like the same stars over and over and over. Because one of my favorite, oh gosh, who was the guy? This is so bad. I'm drawing a blank on his name. He always wears the bucket hat. Joel Damon. Like, when they had Joel Damon on there, like, I thought that was great because no one really knew who Joel was. Like, obviously, like, he's not Rory, he's not Tiger, he's not Jordan Spieth. I think if they had more guys in that kind of like in that kind of level of from that level of the PGA Tour, I think that would be very beneficial to them, just because we're so used to seeing the Rorys and the Jordans and even like the Max Homas. But I'm a little bit stunned that they ended up getting a season 3, just because I was like, how much can they really talk about? Like, year to year, like, it doesn't really, the formatting of the PGA Tour doesn't change, right? And so, but I think it's going to be interesting. I think the Scottie Scheffler arrest, I maintain to this day, if he had won that tournament, I was going to demand that KB make a shirt that said "Not even the law can stop Scottie Scheffler." I mean, I could not believe that he had gotten arrested. And I saw a clip where the officer was like, "Did you have anything to drink this morning?" He was like, "Mouthwash."
Yeah, I saw that.
That was so funny.
In the teaser, he's like, to be honest with you, and he's like in the cop car, and he's like, honestly, I could have never imagined myself being in this position ever in my entire life. Like,
and the cop is like, yeah, not many people.
A lot of people say that.
Like, goddamn. So, like, confirmed so far, in case you didn't see this, confirmed people who will be a part of the season: Ludwig Oberg, Keegan Bradley, Joel Damon will be coming back. Wyndham Clark, Tony Finau, Ricky Fowler, Adam Hadwin is going to get a spot, which is awesome. Min Woo Lee and his sister Minji Lee as well, which is going to be great. We're going to get to see some LPGA content as well. I think the only thing we've ever seen of the LPGA tour within the confines of Full Swing was like a 1-second clip of like Nelly and Tiger. Shane Lowry, Rory, Justin Rose, Scheffler, of course, will be making his debut. Neil Shipley, you're going to definitely get some stuff from his Masters final day with Tiger, which will be awesome. And hopefully we get some explanation into that awkward stare that he had in Butler Cabin, sitting there next to sitting next to everybody. He's like, what's going on? Nick Taylor, Syed Tagala, JT, Camilo Villegas, which is going to be cool, and Gary Woodland. I'm expecting 3 things that I'm very interested in. So the storylines, of course, like, I don't know if you've ever seen F1's Drive to Survive. It's a great show. It's what got me into F1 in the first place. I mean, like, it's the same. There are different racers to a degree every year. Like, contracts run out, guys get cut, and so on. But like, there's like the core 15 guys who are always in every single season, and then five other new faces. You get a storyline or two. A lot of drama with crew chiefs and team principals in that show. A lot of drama with like just the recapping of like how many races are on course for the year. But the cool thing about Full Swing is that like it kind of with F1, it brings you kind of behind the scenes of what's happening like in the paddocks outside of that. And I think Full Swing does a good job at that. But also on top of it is we're gonna finally get to see like Bryson DeChambeau, right? We haven't seen Bryson yet at all. We saw Brooks in season 1 with DJ, but we're getting a lot more into the creative side of what Bryson is. This is the first time, probably the first year fully, that he's been top of his game. So you get to see that. Immediately seeing Gary Woodland, I know we're going to get a heart-wrenching story about his brain surgery, which is going to be amazing. Like that story alone should bring you to tears. The fact that like this guy has been so successful in his career and had to undergo basically a life-saving brain surgery in order to just be here. And is now back to playing golf. We're going to get a great story out of that. Camilo Villegas won last year. First win in I think, a 5-year span. Probably get more content from Tony and his 8 children that he's got. Nick Taylor's got some cool stories. So a lot of really fun names popping up. I'm hoping for more of those Joel Damon stories. We're going to see Minwoo for the first time, Adam Hadwin for the first time. Seeing Minji Lee might immediately say sibling rivalry kind of thing. There's also allegedly a lot that goes into like the wives and girlfriends of these players, which will be cool. We get to kind of see what that sort of lifestyle is in the background. Something that kind of gets overlooked a lot when you look at the pro game across any sport. Like, what are they doing? How are they interacting with fans and handling things? So looking forward to seeing what Full Swing season 3 has in store for all of us. Ethan, do you have anything that you're intrigued by?
No, I did like watching like the Joel Damon stuff, so I hope they have like stuff like that. I liked like the caddy stuff, like when they talk to the caddies and like go in depth about all the stuff that they do on the course. I thought that was cool. So if they have more stuff like that, I don't know. I like the show though.
I could watch 8.5 hours of Gino and Joel Damon content.
Yeah,
easily.
Yeah.
I will say, I do think the PGA, Netflix actually, I do believe that Netflix, they're trying to walk a very fine line of having players who everyone knows and then players who everyone knows. You know what I mean? Because it's like you have to draw in the audience because it's like everyone wants to see what Rory has to say, what Jordan has to say, what Justin has to say. But then people like us, they're like, okay, like we also have to keep like the golf freaks, like the golf nerds, like we have to keep them interested because not everyone really knows much. People don't really know a lot about Camilo Villegas the last, really like 10 years.
Exactly.
Like he wasn't really like, and he's been a fantastic ambassador to the game, but like his career really started to dip off after 2010, right? He's had a little bit of resurgence because he won, and then he had another like a 5-year stretch where he didn't really do a whole lot, then he won again. And so someone like that, I think it's going to be very, very interesting. I do wish that they would focus more on the training aspect and how these guys prepare a little more, not just practice wise, but in the gym, mentally, stuff like that. Hearing like what keys they have and stuff when they're on the course and things are going well, aren't going well. And I do think that, kind of like highlighting what the wives and girlfriends kind of go through, because it is very stressful. And I believe that JJ Redick said this. I don't remember. It was when he did a YouTube video, and I don't remember who it was with, but it was when he was a free agent after he played for the Clippers, and he ended up signing with Philly on like a 1-year deal. But he had said, he was like, something that's not really talked about is what the wives and girlfriends have to go through, because we're constantly moving.
Exactly.
Right. And so, and like, then you just, especially when you have kids too, like, and they're 3, 4, 5 years old, it's like, okay, like, well, that's the age that they're supposed to be in school too, and then dad has to leave and he has to go compete, in California, and he has to leave his wife and kids who are in Jupiter, like for 3 weeks, because he's going on kind of like, a 3-week work trip, and it's hard. And so I do think that that's something that should be highlighted, just what the wives and girlfriends kind of have to go through, because it's not easy. It's very, very difficult when you're basically like alone with kids, or like even like, even when they're able to take them to tour events, like it's not exactly the environments at tour events are not exactly the easiest places to bring a toddler.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not, and Phil Mickelson even said that. Phil Mickelson said that too. He's like, it's really hard to bring a 3-year-old to a tour event. It's not easy, because you have to be quiet. You also have to keep them entertained. And so there are a lot of things that that the wives and girlfriends have to go through. And I think that would be really cool if they could kind of highlight that as well. And not make about the players.
Exactly. Yeah. The only thing that I, in looking at all the names that will be upset that we're not going to see, is going to be Charlie Hull smoking darts. I want to see more LPGA content. I want to see more of the old guys. Would love to get like a lot of that perspective. But also, like, again, the show, the other thing too to expect from season 3, after stalking Chad Mum's Twitter page, if you don't know who he is, he's the executive producer of the show, is like the first 2 seasons set up where they had it where it was a lot of like individualized episodes, like an episode on Joel, an episode on Brooks, an episode on JT. Now you kind of like know the names, so now you can kind of dig right into the nitty gritty. You can get into more of those deeper storylines, which is cool. You'll have the episodes where it's more heavily focused on a certain person, but we also have the Olympics this year. We had the President's Cup this year, so we're going to have a lot of different things to be able to dig into. Obviously, last year's Ryder Cup thing was a huge episode and a half. We'll probably see an episode towards the back end with the President's Cup. You'll see some stuff with the Tour Championship. Paris is going to be huge. Honestly, just the arc of Scotty Scheffler too will be fascinating. Obviously, had his first child, took some time off, got arrested with his first child, won the Masters, went on to go play Valhalla, got arrested, go to the Olympics. Like the arc is just like insane. So very cool to be able to see what we're gonna get out of Full Swing Season 3 releasing tomorrow, Tuesday, the 25th. I'm probably going to be sitting at work just watching it the entire day. Sorry to any of my bosses who are watching me on air. We're going to take a short break. On the other side, we're going to get into our shout-outs of the week, break down what happened this past week at the Mexico Open, and see what is happening, the first event of the the Florida Swing at the Cognizant Classic. Lots of moves, lots of storylines to go over, and we will get to that on the other side from the underground. Be right back.
Get in the Hole is brought to you by PHI Apparel Company, our incredible merch partners. PHI Apparel Co. provides unique designs and high-quality clothing, from t-shirts to hoodies for every golfer around. With their original designs for all, there's no doubt you'll stand out on the course, the driving range, or at the 19th hole. Go to phiapparel.co and use code UNDERGROUND at checkout for 10% off any order. That's code UNDERGROUND at phiapparel.co and grab exclusive Get in the Hole podcast merch and support your favorite golfers.
I gotta be honest with you. I was thrown for a loop by the new countdown music. I wasn't ready for that.
I was not. It was quite relaxing though. It made me feel like I was in a tropical paradise. Which
I mean, you are in trouble. You are technically in a tropical paradise.
Please let me finish, good sir. I wasn't done speaking. But I was going to say, anyone who listens knows that I live in West Palm, which is basically a tropical paradise, as Steve so eloquently pointed out.
You're welcome.
It's been raining here all day, so I don't want to hear your sass, Steve. Okay.
Jeez. Well, it's like 20 degrees up here.
Wow.
Yeah, I think tomorrow is going to be like the first.
Well, yeah, it's going to get like 50.
Wow.
High at 50 tomorrow. Dude, I'm sure it's the opposite polo shirt.
Yeah.
God. It's funny. I was talking to a coworker of mine who's from Arizona, and he's like, I hate this. Like, I knew coming to New York would be like a shift, but I wasn't ready for it to be like 20 degrees every day. I'm like, and they make fun of me at the office because I'm the only guy who in the summer will wear shorts because I go from the office right to the golf course. So I'm the only guy who's wearing shorts any day. And we had a new guy, and my one coworker goes like over the wall, and he's like, "Hey Steve, like when do you start putting on shorts?" I'm like, probably like the first like 55-ish degree day when it's like decent out and like not a wild breeze. So they're not going to get broken out this week, but soon enough they will. But the first day where you can take off the heavy like parka jackets and you can change it to just like a hoodie or like a quarter zip is going to be fantastic. Hopefully tomorrow there won't be a stiff wind. Let's get into our shout out to the week presented by Acorn Hills, who's changing clothing through conservation. Started out in a dorm room in Western PA. Acorn Hills is dedicated to supporting environmental efforts by offering both biodegradable clothing tags, packaging, and recycled materials. And for every $1 spent, the National Forest Foundation will plant a seedling to promote afforestation across our great land. Be sure to use code GITH, that's getting the whole 15, for 15% off your next order at acornhillsco.com. Look your best from the ground up. Shop their selections of quarter zips, polos, ball markers, and more at acornhillsco.com and use code GITH15 for 15% off your next order. We lead off with our first shout out to Brian Campbell. I got to be honest with you, in my 3 years of covering golf, I have never heard of the name Brian Campbell going into a final round on Sunday. And I am so happy that I did not know his name going in because the storyline is tremendous. Brian Campbell, 31 years old, graduate from the University of Illinois. He never finished top 10 ever on the PGA Tour. He earned his card back in 2015, lost it within a year, grinded out the Corn Ferry Tour for years, almost 8 years. Finally got conditional status on tour this year. Played last week. Played the Amex, missed the cut. He missed 17 of 27 cuts in his first 27 starts. In his 28th start, finds and manages a way to win in his first PGA Tour event. The journeyman versus the guy who could have been a top 5 youngest player to ever win an event goes into a playoff and manages to have probably one of the greatest golf shots, luckiest golf shots ever, which we'll talk about in a hot bit. But like, it's crazy to think in the history of me covering this sport, I've never heard of the winner. And someone else mentioned it on Twitter, and it's like, this is one of the events where it's not a standout event, but you clearly got a glimpse into some of the next best players on tour. Never did we think that we'd get Brian Campbell as a winner at an event. So shout out to Brian Campbell. Great victory. Finally gets his first win in playoff fashion at 31 years old. And he earns his spot into Augusta and the PGA Championship. And, of course, a 2-year exemption on tour. So great stuff from Brian Campbell.
Speaking of his exemption to Augusta National, did you see that there were some tweets?
Yeah,
whatever you want to call them now, saying that the winner of the Mexico Open should get an exemption to Augusta. How ridiculous!
Yeah, I hate this shit. It's terrible because they're one of the guys who is one of the lead hosts on Fried Egg, and somebody else tweeted it out. They're like, "How could someone like get an exemption to Augusta at this Mickey Mouse event?" I'm like, I understand the event isn't this like top tier, high level. It's largely, I'm not even going to really say an opposite field event because there were some some good names in the field. Akshay was in the field. Steven Yeager, Aaron Rye. We mentioned a ton of guys last week on the show who were older players who were trying to grind out some FedEx Cup points. It's still a very quality event. They still shot 20 under par in order to get to where they are. Like, why are we discounting so much off of this event just because it's in Mexico at a resort? Like, why are we giving props to guy? What, like, real talk? Why are we giving $3 million to a guy at the Century when it's the easiest golf course statistically on tour to play? That to me, like there are certain things that I don't get. I don't understand the hatred around this event. It's stupid as shit.
Well, and I'll just take it a step further. So this event on the PGA Tour has been around for 4 years. What is going on? What is going on in the background, real quick?
What is going on?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyway,
someone shares in our frustration here.
Yeah, exactly. The 4 winners of this event are as follows: Jon Rahm in 2022, Tony Finau in 2023, Jake Knapp last year, and then, of course, this year, Brian Campbell. Jon Rahm, who's a 2-time major winner. Tony Finau, who I, mark my words, will win at least one major. Okay, now, mind you, they actually flip-flopped those 2 years. Tony Finau was one of the runner-ups for Jon Rahm in 22, and then 23, Rahm was a runner-up to Finau. So there's this event being that it is a younger event on tour. This was only the 4th year of of it being played. It has had legitimate players play it. Players, and when I say legitimate, I mean players that the average golf fan knows about. Okay? And so at the end of the day, I think that it's absolutely ludicrous to criticize really Augusta, because they're the ones who make the rules regarding who gets into their event, because it's their event. It's absolutely ludicrous to criticize them for letting a PGA Tour winner from this calendar year, it's absolutely ludicrous that people would criticize Augusta National for this. So I see nothing wrong with Brian Campbell getting in, just like I saw nothing wrong with Jake Knapp getting in last year. So at the end of the day, it is 2025, and a lot of people need things to complain about. And I guess that's what they decided to complain about on Monday, February 24th. So
yeah, I think the other part too, right? And this goes back to what I was saying about how I didn't know who Brian Campbell was. That's really the only leg that anybody has to stand on. Like, oh, who's this unknown guy who managed to win a event? When last year, when Jake Knapp won and he got his first win, everyone's praising him. Oh, Jake Knapp, next big name in golf. What's he done last year? Like, I get it, golf's hard, but we're gonna critique a guy who has been grinding out his entire career in order to get to where he is. Meanwhile, anybody who's just like Brian Campbell could have very well gone to the pre-qualifiers and the Monday qualifiers to get into a major like the U.S. Open. Like, Augusta National is an invite-only event. If we're going to argue this guy shouldn't get in, but we're going to argue that live guys shouldn't be getting in either, it's 2 completely different scenarios that we're talking about. I think it's ridiculous that a guy who wins a tour event over Ben Griffin and Aaron Rye, Joel Damon, Steven Yeager, Nikolai Højgaard, Akshay Bhatia, these are household names. Henrik Norlander, Michael Kim, like Jake Knapp last year. If you want to really talk about someone who maybe didn't deserve a exemption, top 10 players in the field that week: Knapp, Semi Balamaki, Justin Lower, Yeager again, CT Pan, Robbie Mack, Patrick Rogers, Andrew Novak, Doug Gim, Carson Young, Eric Van Rooyen. A much better field this year, and a much better top 10 leaderboard compared to what Jake Knapp did last year. So people want to find ways to complain that, and it's ridiculous.
And one last thing: most of the winners on tour you've never heard of before they win their first tour event.
Exactly.
I guarantee you not very many people knew about Zach Johnson, who we will be talking about later on the show. A little teaser for you. No one knew who Zach Johnson was until he won the 2007 Masters. Okay? The most prestigious event in golf. No one knew who Lucas Glover was before he won the 2009 U.S. Open at Bethpage Black. I didn't. I'm sure you didn't. I'm sure Kyle didn't. Ethan, I don't even know if you were alive back then.
But he was born in 2004. He's not a little kid.
Crazy.
Okay.
He was 5. He was 5. We'll give him that.
Okay. But still, no one knew who Danny Willett was before he won the 2015 Master. 15. 2015 Masters. No one knew who he was. So at the end of the day, here, I'll even throw another one out there for you. Dustin Johnson, his first ever win was the 2008 Turning Stone Championship in upstate New York. No one knew who he was going into that event. I guarantee it. So at the end of the day, most guys who went on tour for the first time, no one knows that they even existed. So I think it's absolutely crazy and mind-blowing that people have an issue with Brian Campbell getting into a PGA Tour event, getting into the Masters. He's obviously not a scrub. He played at Illinois, which is one of the best golf programs in the country, and he's a 31-year-old PGA Tour winner. He's obviously not a scrub. So
Plus,
you know what? Hey, I hope he goes and plays well at Augusta. I really do, because that way he'll just shut up all the haters. And I love that.
Mark it down right now. We're gonna take Brian Campbell top 30 at the Masters in beer money, and it's gonna hit.
You might. I'm gonna just stay here. I'm
trying to be supportive.
I'm not gonna stand by your word.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't say anything. Steve's the one trying to make bets in my name. Sounds kind of
I'm just trying to be a supportive man of the program for Brian Campbell.
I'm being supportive. I'm being very supportive. Anyway,
right, fine. I'll give you that.
Shout out to the tree on number 18 in the second playoff hole. Brian Campbell hit an errant tee shot bound for the forest, but miraculously took a terrific kick off the base of a tree and landed safely in the middle of the fairway. The golf gods looked amicably over Brian Campbell. That has happened to me multiple times in my career. And it is honestly, it's your heart just kind of does like a loop-de-loop because your heart's sinking because you're thinking you're going to have to re-tee. And then you're just elated with joy because it's pure elation because then you see your balls in the fairway. And it just doesn't deserve to be there. Yeah, it's happened to me before. So I'm sure he was over the moon happy when that ball was in the fairway.
I'm watching the event. First thing I thought of, the video that you have of me hitting the base of the tree. First thing I thought of. I was like, Ben's going to find a way to bring this up. And the fact that you didn't.
And you know what? I didn't. Well, the thing is, I will say, your ball hit the tree and it actually ended up in an okay spot because it went sideways towards the fairway rather than going backwards and potentially hitting you, which was a legitimate fear that I had when we were setting up to that ball. I'm like, this kid's about to wear this ball. I'm going to feel so bad for him. But yeah, you brought it up. And
honestly, in that moment, I didn't even think I didn't even think about the repercussions of me hitting a ball, probably at least 100 miles an hour, just to fucking bop me back in the head. That's a horrifying thought. That, like, thinking about it now. Thank God I'm not like brain damaged. Oh my God.
I got hit by a golf ball once, and my entire back was just purple.
Not fun. Yeah, no, not something that I personally would ever want to deal with. Also, like the fact that it happened on the second playoff hole to get him right in the fairway, knock it to like 12 feet and just nail it. Talk about like sheer golf gods luck. Amazing. Good for him. Speaking of which, a third shout out for the Mexico Open. God, who would have thought we'd be talking so much about this event? Like I had said in the beginning of the show, not a standout event by any means. Small purse, resort course down in Mexico, not the largest fields in the world. It might as well have been a fall series event in terms of the field and the way it was composed. But nonetheless, we got a runner-up finish from Aldrich Pockire, who I said last week was a sleeper pick for me at deep odds to go deep in this tournament. But also, if you remember, I picked him to be the PGA Tour Rookie of the Year this year. So a huge event from Aldrich. Top 10 finishes from Nikolai Højgaard, Akshay Bhatia, Alejandro Tosti, and Ben Griffin. Top 20s from 2 of the amateurs in the field, including San Diego State's Jacob Hastings and Arizona State's Jose Luis Ballester Barrio, both really, really strong players. Ballester Barrio, a mentee of John Rahm back in Spain. And of course, Blades Brown made his first cut on tour at only 16 years old. 17. So like that right there, what?
17. So you know.
Oh, I thought he was 16 still. Regardless, And very impressive from all 5 of those players, on top of just the field in general. Really kind of getting a glimpse of the next good big generation in golf, seeing what they can possibly put out in the next few years. Like we always talk about who's the next guy up, and in the history of this show, right? We started out with Colin and Hovland, and even Matt Wolff to a degree. That progressed onwards towards Akshay Bhatia and Ludvig Åberg. Now, who's going to be the next guy up after all of them? The line keeps on being moved, and it only means that we're getting better and better players every single year joining this tour. Neil Shipley very well could be another name who, following his big time run at the Masters last year, could come back off the KFT this year. He'll have some limited exemptions. Like we said, Carl Phillips could very well be in some fields as he has part-time membership, and the rest of the guys I had mentioned getting a real good look at what to see from the next generation.
Okay, I would like to put a request in to handle the next 2 shout-outs, but just the first birthday shout-out for the second one, okay?
Sure.
All right, great.
You can do that. Great.
Thanks, sweetheart. Shout out to Valspar and the Valspar Championship, who inked a long-term extension for the event at the Copperfield course at Innisbrook to run through 2030. The original agreement was set to expire after this month's event. Well, it's really good that the PGA Tour is able to re-up with Valspar. That's something that they've been struggling with. It's that event at that course has been a mainstay on tour for years. One of the hardest courses on the PGA Tour. I've been there. I've played it. I've watched it. It is quite a brutal test, and I'm very, very happy to see that the PGA Tour will be staying in Tampa, and that Valspar will also be staying in Tampa to be the main sponsor of that event. Birthday shout-outs of the week. Happy 49th birthday to Zach Johnson. The Drake alum became a household name after securing his second career win at one of the cathedrals of golf, Augusta National. Johnson would go on to be one of the best players in the world, being ranked top 10 in the official world golf rankings by 2014, claiming the 2015 Open Championship at St. Andrews, another cathedral of golf, and representing the USA as a 5-time Ryder Cup player and the 2024 captain in Rome. To date, Johnson has accumulated 24 career victories. Happy birthday, Zach. I used to work with his instructor, and Zach has always been a great ambassador to the game. Do either one of you know where Drake University is?
The only thing I know, hold on. I think they're in the MVC. I'm not wrong.
Clue.
The only thing I know about Drake is their basketball program is sick. I'm gonna say Kentucky.
Iowa. KB, you got it. Yep,
Damn.
Iowa. So, yep, Zach is from Iowa. He went to school in Iowa. I was told was not even the best player on his team in college. He just he is a testament of hard work, dedication, and determination. So, but from what I've been told, did not have a lot of success on the mini tours at all. He just kept grinding, kept fighting, kept clawing, and ended up getting on the Korn Ferry Tour. At the time, I think it might have been the Buy.com tour at the time, in 2003 or 4.
Eons ago.
Eons ago. And I think he spent a couple years on that tour and then eventually made it onto the PGA Tour. So he knows his strengths. For those of you who don't know, when he won that Masters Championship, he laid up on every single par 5. So that's called playing to your strengths. And so he's one of the best wedge players you will ever see on this planet. So happy birthday, Zach.
And Zach Johnson does not deserve the hate that he gets from people like the hecklers. It's all.
Oh my gosh! I feel very bad for him that it's still going on. But it's also not even his fault. It's just not. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's
you have guys on your team. Like he's not a coach; he's a captain. You know, he's not coaching them. So, but yeah. Zach, happy birthday.
Also, shout outs for birthdays this week. Also joining Zach Johnson today on his birthday. Happy 35th to Ben Coles. I know you're a big Ben Coles believer. He turns 35 today. On Thursday, two GOATs in their two Mount Rushmore players, you could argue, in their individual golf tours. Jessica Korda turns 31. She's already a Hall of Famer. She's already one of the best in LPGA history. And of course, one of the few Grand Slam winners, would have been 123 years old this Thursday. Gene Sarazen, 48-time tour winner. Absolute god. Guy won what? I think 7 majors. Just an absolute beast of a game. And of course, not Fat Perez, but Pat Perez turns 48 on Saturday. Shout out Patty P.
That guy is a beauty. That guy. Is he even playing on LIV? Because I know he's like a broadcaster, like an encore.
I think if he isn't still on the 4 races, actually, let me look it up, because he was in the drop zone last year. I don't know if he made it back. He might still be on the team.
He had one of the funniest lines I've ever heard, because in an interview they were asking, there were probably 3 or 4 guys on LIV up at the podium, and the media, they were asking the players, you're going to lose your world ranking points. You're not going to be eligible for the majors. And Pat Perez just sat there and was like, I'm 98th in the world. I'm not getting into any majors.
Pat Perez is not actively on LIVGolf. He was not re-signed by the 4
So I think he's transitioning more into media, which honestly, I think golf needs more of that. I think golf needs former players on course doing the on-course commentating. That's just personally what I think. I'm sure Steve, you would agree, because I do believe that.
Oh, yeah.
I do believe that, and as a pro, I feel like I can say this. Sometimes the announcing, it can just kind of put me to sleep. So I would like to say, I'm happy that Smiley Coffin's doing it. I know Wesley Ryan's kind of dabbled in it a little bit. We need more players or former players who are recently retired, in air quotes, on course, because I think it's great to hear what a tour pro has to say, just in my opinion. So
yeah, no, I totally agree. I think we like Kevin Kisner moving to the booth eventually is going to be great. Probably you're going to see other guys like, I think Stuart Sink has been reached out to be a pundit. Zach Johnson will probably do the same. A lot of those like guys who are in their later 40s who have only conditional status on tour, if any, they'll probably transition through, which I think is great for the game. I mean, the NFL does a great job of getting guys in the booth. Granted, are all of them great? Depends. But like Greg Olson's done a great job. Kurt Warner's done a solid job. I mean, you could say what you want about Brady and Romo, but at the end of the day, like these guys do know their stuff.
I think Brady's good.
Witten was good. I think Brady's good. I think Romo gets a lot of heat, but also like Romo's like the girlfriend that you date who can predict every movie 20 minutes in. Like he knows what's gonna happen, and you're just like, bro, shut up. I want to watch it. So like give them all the hate you want, but they're still good at their craft. Also found this out about Pat Perez, and I know KB's in the background, and he can talk to us actively about this. Pat Perez, while living in Florida, was actually neighbors with former Philadelphia Philly Pat the Bat Burrell. Apparently, he was actually very close to the Phillies when they were playing spring training games, as well as throughout the year, because he was a neighbor of Pat. He followed along with the team, was basically like best friends with Pat Burrell during the 08-09 season when they won the World Series. He said in a 2010 interview, he said, I was truly part of that 08 team that won the World Series because I knew all the guys. I had a locker in their locker room. I'd come see them all the time. I would really root for them like I was part of the team. And apparently, like for years, he would go to spring training. He would like hit balls with Jimmy Rollins. He'd go and shag fly balls. He would literally play with the guys. And then he said one of the worst days of his life was when Pat Burrell signed with the Rays and he was no longer allowed to come to the Phillies locker room because they were like, who are you? So
baseball players have like an affinity for golf. It's honestly, they love it. I mean, it's like, I would say they're probably like, if you look at all the sports, like all the other professional sports, I feel like baseball players are the biggest like golf kind of like nerds. They love it. Like I don't
know though. Basketball has a lot of guys that go.
That is true. That is
but also like the baseball guys though, right? Like I think the stories that I used to hear, like you hear the stories about like Jordan and everybody, but like one of the best amateurs when they play, I don't even know what the event is, but it's like it's the amateur like tournament, for like celebrities for charity. Like John Smoltz is always top 5 every time. Apparently, those old Braves teams, it was Smoltz, Maddox, Glavine. They used to literally go and golf in the morning before day games and just like go play 18, rush to the field, get their rounds in.
Well, I think for them, it's number one, it gets them through because most of those players I've spoken to one very high level major league player, and he said he's like, hey, look, he is a Cy Young winner, so say what you want.
Who is it?
I'm not telling you.
Remember?
Sorry, man. Yeah, don't say it. Don't say it. HIPAA.
Oh, did he not know?
He knows. He just doesn't know.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, you know. He was talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bro goes HIPAA.
HIPAA. That's all I'm going to say. HIPAA. Yeah, there you go.
I actually don't know. Oh, I'm a moron. I'm sorry.
It's okay. He said, I remember I asked him, I said, are you excited for spring training? And he goes, no. No one's excited for spring training ever. And I think it's like the one thing, because a lot of them are away from their families too. And they're doing all these drills that they've been doing since they were 6. Like, they're like, I get to go play golf. Like, that is like their vice, all those guys. And people don't realize, though, the golf swing and the baseball swing are actually very similar. They're just on different planes because the baseball swing is more of like on plane with your chest, whereas and then really you just kind of bend from your hips and you create pelvic tilt, and that changes the plane, but it's all the same swing. And the only thing that baseball players have to understand is that you're supposed to release the club with your wrists, not with your shoulders, which is why they end up struggling with slice. Another reason why pitchers are usually much better at golf in season than hitters, because hitters tend to try to hit it with their shoulders, not their wrists, using their wrists. Anyway, I sound like a nerd.
No, it's funny you actually mentioned that. So my one of my friends in high school, his next door neighbor in Hicksville was Nick Markakis, and he loved spring training because he was like, oh, it's great. I have the rookies getting me coffee every day, and I go to the golf course, and I barely ever play. And
well, that's the thing. It's easy for him. He doesn't have to do anything.
Well, so my friends tell me a story about Nick Markakis. He's like, yeah, like he was either playing for the Braves or the Orioles at the time, whoever it was, and the manager turns to him. It's like 11:30. He's like, hey Nick, I had you penciled into the game today. I mean, we're gonna test out a new guy. We just got up from the minors. Like, feel free to just like take the day off. Within 5 minutes, he pulled the golf bag out of his locker and was gone. And went wherever. I don't even know where they play, but like had like an open time slot, just like waiting on him whenever he wanted to play. Apparently, so like I love that shit. That's awesome. So we love the baseball players who get to golf. Although my baseball prowess never translated into golf either. I suck at both.
Did you have? I was about to say, did you have baseball prowess?
I played a year of high school ball. Then I screwed up my shoulders with tendonitis, and I had my knee surgery, and I was a catcher, so like I couldn't like do much at that point.
The worst position ever, though.
Hey, what? No, I was a catcher.
No,
that's the worst position ever. Are you kidding me?
It's the best position.
No,
in every play. It's the only position in baseball other than pitching that you're involved in every play.
So it's the best position.
In the game.
It's the best position and the worst position all at the same time because it's grueling on your legs. And if you're like me, who was a lineman in the fall and I was catcher in the spring, my arm gets shot really easily. And I was told by a doctor by the end of my high school years that I was probably going to end up needing a knee replacement or like a hip replacement at some point in my life. With the amount of wear and tear that was done on my legs in 4 years of high school, it was brutal, horrible. Anyways, we're digressing. The Continent Classic this week. Speaking of sponsorships where like went away and we didn't know if they were going to come back. I said it last year. I'll say it again. We are entering the hardest and most underrated stretch of golf. The Florida Swing is no brute. We're going this week from the Bear Trap to Innisbrook when we have the Snake Pit. We're going to have Bay Hill meshed in between, Sawgrass. The Florida Swing is no joke. And this is one of those events that while, yes, it was the Honda as of 2 years ago and it went away, just because the sponsorship changed over does not make this field or this event any harder. The history of this golf course, listen to this, you'll love this. The course is so hard on a PGA Tour standard. It is statistically one of the top 5 hardest non-major courses. That includes the Players and East Lake and all the other playoff events. Like, this is a top 5 hardest course to play when you're not playing a major. And sometimes, like in Valhalla's case, if you look at like the comparison, was actually harder than Valhalla last year. So when you look at it from that realm, this event is challenging. Also, course knowledge for you guys. Found this one out. No player that has won this event made the cut only once of the last 3 years they played this event. At this specific event. So, like, just because you missed the cut does not mean you're going to play poorly the next week. It's a very, 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 you need to get lucky and be able to play just sound golf for 4 days. And it's a very challenging thing to do. Ben, I want to bring up one thing about this event going in. We can talk all about the Bear Trap and how challenging it is. I know you've had experience here. But I do want to note one thing that I found really interesting. So as of, I believe it was Wednesday. Let me see. Yeah, I believe it was Wednesday of last week. The deadline to register for the event was 6 p.m. Our report came out at 6:10 p.m. that Jordan Spieth, that committed to the event, was not on the original call sheet that was sent out by the PGA Tour, and then just added him to the field. So everyone's like, all right, like, he probably signed up after the deadline. Like, what's the deal there? Did they give him a special, like, whatever? He ends up getting into the list. That actually dropped off the aforementioned Carl Phillips into first alternate. From there, Tyler McCumber withdrew, so now Phillips is back in the field. What ended up happening, though, with the Aon Swing 5 and the next 10, as Charlie Hoffman was arguing about 3 weeks ago, now the tour is starting to listen and take more form on it, Aldrich Pockgeyer and Alejandro Tosti both got added to the field. That means that not only was Phillips tossed, but Paul Peterson, who was already in the field, then got bumped down to first alternate, which pushed down Phillips to second alternate. From there, of course, Pockgeyer ended up withdrawing, as well as Sam Stevens. So now both of them are in. The question, though, because this kind of brings on a whole slew of issues. With the Aon Swing 5 and the next 10 series and guys getting exemptions into events for finishing top 10, on top of the whole Jordan Spieth possibly signing up post-deadline, in my opinion, it's kind of messed up that Paul Peterson, of all the guys in this field, got bounced, even though he was in the initial field. Is that like a should there be a problem within golf with that, or should they just have the spot open for anybody to finish top 10 will then get into the event, like to not bump somebody who was already in the initial field out of the event?
Okay, look, if you're in the initial field, you should not be getting bumped. Okay, that's pretty simple. I know someone that this has happened to. It actually happened to Mike Bender when he played on the PGA Tour. I think it was back in the 80s. So Mike Bender was supposed to play an event, and it might have been in Colorado, maybe somewhere out west. And the tour, they really wanted Jack Nicklaus to play, like really wanted him to play. Now, Jack was a little older at the time. He was past his prime. He said, I'll only play if you let my son play. So Jack plays because they let his son play. Well, because his son got into the event, guess who got bumped out?
Mike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know someone, and that's obviously that's never a good feeling because that just sucks. And then they said, well, we'll let you play in the Pro-Am. I don't remember exactly what happened. And I think they were gonna pay him to play in the Pro-Am because I think at the time back then, at least you got paid. I don't even think he even got to play in the Pro-Am. Something ended up happening, and he didn't even get to play in the Pro-Am, which means he didn't get paid anything.
Yeah.
And so I think, look, at the end of the day, if you're in the initial event, you're in. Okay. And then the Aon Swing 5, if you end up qualifying for it that way, they should have potential extra spots available for that guy or guys. Okay. But once the entry deadline passes, if you really still want to play and you just couldn't make up your mind for the past 2.5 months, then you should be added to the end of the alternate list. That's how it ends up working. That's how it should work. But the only reason we're having this discussion is because it's Jordan Spieth. And I don't have a problem with Jordan Spieth at all. Okay. But at the end of the day, that should not have happened. I think it sets a very bad precedent for the tour. And it just once again proves to everyone that the tour cares more about their stars than everybody else. That's on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, no, I equally feel as bad for both Peterson. Granted, now he is in as well as
but that's not
Carl
something
Billups.
that you need to be dealing with. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So like I feel bad for Peterson because he's getting bumped when you were already guaranteed essentially a spot in this field, and now all of a sudden Jordan Spieth wants to come with everything else. You get bumped out. I don't see what's wrong with adding just one more guy to the field. But even like for like Carl Billups, right? Just got off of a finish in Mexico, was going to go right over to Florida because he was in the field in the first place, gets bumped to first alternate, then goes back into the field come Sunday. Then by the time his round ended, gets bumped out again because of the Aon Swing 5 and the next 10 in. So all of a sudden now, all right, I'm back to square one. Now I'm second alternate. Now I got to like cancel flights possibly because I'm not going to be able to go home. And he doesn't live in Florida either. So it's like, what do I do now? And now finally, like it's in. It's a headache, and it's stupid that this is happening. And again, this is only the first time that I've ever heard of this. Obviously, your story with Mike certainly helps a lot with this. I don't know how often this has ever happened on tour, but kind of seems fucked up to have to go through this kind of this like ball and chain routine. It's like we talked about a few weeks ago with the Bahamas Corn Ferry Tour event, how the guy was like 30th alternate and had to make sure that everyone else told the tour that they were going to withdraw. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to make it into the event. Even if he was the second alternate, no one showed up. You're still SOL because they were expecting this guy to show up in case there was a withdrawal. So like those small caveats, I think, are the stupidest thing in golf. And this should have never happened. It should have never been an issue. There should be spots reserved for guys if they qualify for the Aon Swing 5 or the next 10 in or whatever it might be. And if they don't go used, fine, they don't go used. If the field's 144 guys, let's just say, right? We've had fields upwards of 156. You're telling me you can't just have spots on hand? And what's one more guy if you happen to go over? Like it's the difference between having threesomes possibly.
Just send out the first group as a twosome.
Yeah, that's exactly. Like keep it easy.
Go, yeah.
Like don't see what the issue is.
Honestly, that would probably help pace of play because they would be so far ahead. Now, obviously, they do split tees. Guys tee off at 1 and 10, but it's not going to hurt pace of play. I promise you, it's not going to hurt pace of play. Pace of play is already enough.
Well, let's put it this way, right? If Augusta National has a pace player occasionally when they only have one guy teeing off playing around, you're telling me the Cottesdale Classic can't have a twosome? Like that just seems dumb to me. How you can't break it up properly to just make it happen. I think it's ridiculous. But anyways, that's really my only big gripe from this week. I think it's messed up, and I feel bad for the guys that were involved, all because one star who all of a sudden realizes in his career, I haven't been playing that well. I need to play these not smaller events, but I can't just play the big-time events and majors. I need to actually play something else so I don't finish 61st again in the FedEx Cup standings. So now here we go. Same old song and dance. Here we are. I have to now go in possibly after the deadline, which still we don't even know about either. We don't know if he signed up after the fact and they just like gave it to him, which would be equally as messed up for somebody who was a part of the policy board to be able to just get in. But yeah, that's my gripe there. Let's get into some beer money so we can wrap up and I can have some lunch. I mean dinner. God, it's been so fucking long today. Brought to you by Kenwood Beer, our good friends, bringing you the best light beer in the world. I swear to God, it's actually that good. Only 120 calories, 8 grams of carbs. Some call it the best light beer that they've ever had. We just tell you can't beat the original. Trust me on that one. Head to KenwoodBeer.com. Use the Kenny tracker where you can get your hands on some ice cold, refreshing Kennies. And, of course, on kenwoodbeer.com, you can get in and grab your golf beer glasses and apparel, some awesome stuff coming out from the Kenwood Beer brand. You can find your favorite Kenwood beer from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, even as far out as right around New Jersey City. It's coming so close to New York. I cannot wait for it to make it right in my backyard, as well as the Wells Fargo Center and beyond. Must be 21 years or older to consume. And, of course, please drink responsibly. And for those of you betting with us, please bet responsibly as well. We go in top 20 at the Cognizant Classic, formerly the Honda, at PGA National. Ben, who you got?
I'm going to fire up Chris Kirk for a top 20 finish.
Hell yeah.
It's the type of course where, look, Steve, you said it best. It's a very difficult course. It's one of the most difficult courses to play. I've played it, especially if it's windy or if it's cold, good luck. And so he's Mr. Consistent. He doesn't make a lot of big numbers. He doesn't necessarily hit it the furthest, but this is the type of course where it's so narrow and it's so penalizing off the tee where you just kind of have to hit straight and solid, and he does that. So I like Chris Kirk for top 20.
Top 20 for me this week. We didn't talk about him a couple weeks ago when he played. I forgot even where he played, but he missed the cut. And I think this is going to be the week that we finally get him over the line. Luke Clanton is 1 point away from getting his tour card. All he has to do is make the cut. I think he's going to go even further and finish top 20 this week. The Florida State, hopefully, possibly sooner rather than later, alumni, could very well see himself go from junior or senior at Florida State to a pro very, very quick, and his life could change before his eyes. He's gotten some really good exemptions so far this year. He's gotten into the Amex. I think he played the Waste Management. This is going to be a week for him to get out to PGAU, one of the top amateurs in the world. Top 20 for me, Luke Clanton. Lock that stuff in. Top 10.
Top 10, I'm going to go with Billy Horschel. I feel like it's going to be a good week for Billy. I've always been a big fan of his swing. He's a good ball striker, makes just enough putts. It's not the type of course you have to go crazy low on. And so I feel like this fits right in his kind of game. So yeah, I like Billy Horschel this week. This is a guy who, mind you, and I say that, the reason I say that, he had 18 to 18 greens in the third round of the 2013 U.S. Open. And that was at Marion. And so no one was really going that low that week. And so I think he's had a history. He has experience on courses where it's hard to go low. And I do feel like that feeds right into his game.
Yeah, but my top 10 here, I want to go with like Denny McCarthy because I know that putting is going to be so paramount at this event, but the approach play is just so much more important. I'm going to go with the guy, model of consistency in his short iron game and has been a strong player over the last 18 months. I'm going to go Lucas Glover for a top 10. It's going to be pretty good conditions out in Florida from what I'm seeing on the reports. So shouldn't have a lot of immense heat. Shouldn't have a lot of crazy wind. I think if put in the right situation, Lucas Glover going to have a really strong week here at plus 300. Top 5. Who you got?
I'm going to fire up Young Hun Ben On for a top 5 finish. I picked him a lot this year, I feel like, but he's high up on the odds boards. I like him for a good finish this week. Doesn't make a lot of mistakes. You shoot 8 under, you're going to be in the top 5, I think. So I think that's for him and his skill set, that's totally doable.
Oof. Top 5. I'm like really stuck between these two guys. Who do I go with? I'm going to go with one of them is a previous winner. I'm going to go with the guy who hasn't won because I think he needs a good week going into some of the big events this year. Top 5, I'm going to go Russell Henley. Again, does everything really well, does nothing incredibly, but he's just perfect for what you need. He's like Matt McNeely, probably even better than that. According to Datagolf, he's one of the top 5 golfers in the world. If you look at his overall stats over the last 18 months, should have some great approach play, really good iron play. I like Sepp Straka here, but I think Henley needs it more, especially because Sepp won a couple weeks ago. I'll go Henley for top 5. Your guinea pick.
I'm going to go with Eric Cole for a top 25 finish. He grinded on the mini tours forever. And so in South Florida, in this area, and so I'm sure he's played this course numerous times. So that's why I like Eric Cole for top 25.
You know, I have a layup pick that I could very well go with because somehow Shane Lowry is plus 100 when he's the odds-on leader in this event, which just goes to show you how challenging this golf course is. But for the sake of this, while yes, absolutely bet Shane Lowry for a top 20, I'm going to go somewhere different. I'm going to go Cam Young to not finish top 10. I heard someone. I was talking to a guy today, and I was telling KB this. Guy comes in to install my carbon monoxide monitor, and he goes, "Oh, you're a podcaster," because he sees the setup. He goes, "Oh, what do you do?" I go, "Oh, I podcast about golf," and he goes, "Golf. Don't got a lot of storylines, right?" I'm like, "Oh, you'd be surprised." The only two things that he mentioned, he goes, "Oh yeah, that TGL stuff, way better than those crooked terrorists at LIV." And let me tell you, man, Scam Young, I hate that guy. I'm like, do you mean Cam Young? He goes, "Yeah, Scam Young. Perfect. Scam Young, not top 10 this week. Your winner at the Cognizant."
Oh, gosh. What an individual.
Dude, it was wild. Kay's asleep trying to get ready for work, so she's out cold, but she hears the drill and then the thing beeping, and she hears the guy say crooked terrorists, and I go, she texts me, she goes, "Is this guy good?" I'm like, "No, he's most certainly not good." Oh my gosh. I was off his rocker. Sorry, go ahead.
All right. My winner. Thanks, Steve, for the just.
You're so welcome.
Amazing story. My winner for this week at plus 2,800. Give me Daniel Berger. You know, I work out in the same gym as his dad.
That's random.
I know, but it's kind of cool at the same time.
You know, it's funny you bring up Dan Berger. He won here 3 years ago, I think, right? 3 years or 4 years ago, before the injury.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good play. I'm actually gonna go with a former winner who's gonna earn his second win on tour this year, who also won at this golf course in the last couple of years. At 25-1, I'm going with Sepp Straka to win this week. Look at that. Back-to-back winners at this event. We're rolling with both of them. I love it.
You're just the way you said that, you're such a nerd.
I am a nerd. I will totally admit that I am again, I'm talking to this guy. This guy who's installing this alarm. And he's like, "Oh, what are they doing with the golf clubs? They're hitting it so long. Like the girls are hitting it as long as the guys are hitting it in the 90s." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, like they're doing the rollback." And then me, like a fucking nerd, is talking about what the golf rollback is. And that guy could have thought I was speaking fucking Chinese. He had no idea what I was talking about. Then in my head, I'm like, what if I started talking about grass? Remember, I had my grass phase, and all I would ever do was talk about the contouring of grass and how it's how good it is. I told my.
I forget.
Oh well, I'll bring you back this story quick.
No, I want to hear it.
my coworker from Arizona. I literally perfectly guessed what kind of grass he has in his front yard because I'm just a freaking nerd about my grass knowledge. Ben looks like Kenny from South Park. That's going to do it for us here. Episode 193 of Get in the Hole. Be sure to follow us on all of our socials. You having fun there? There you go.
Shut up, Steve.
Use the muscles. Follow us on all the socials on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Get in the Hole Pod. Sure to follow and subscribe to our channels on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube at Get in the Hole Pod and Underground Sports PHI. Be sure to like and comment on our posts and be sure to subscribe on that YouTube channel. Continue to get us climbing up the subscriber ladder. With that being said, for Ethan Hogan, Ben Pirro, Kyle Bennett, and myself, Steve McAvoy, we'll see you next week. Enjoy the golf at the condo. Thanks for listening to Get in the Hole, the official golf podcast of Underground Sports Philadelphia. Catch us every week wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and be sure to like and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Get in the Hole Pod, and follow Underground Sports Philadelphia at Underground PHI. We'll see you next time, and remember, get in the hole!